So can everyone see my screen just to make sure that we're able to see? Can somebody confirm that for me?
We sure
Looks good.
can.
All right, great. So thanks for joining me. Happy Friday, everybody. We're going to kind of dive in here. So putting the R in CDR. I love that I have a marketing department that helps to make me look smart. So today we're gonna talk about some great stuff that I believe is really valuable if we think about our SOC, if we think about incident response, all things that because you're taking part in this summit, you're likely interested in. And so at Stream, a company that I now work for, we're proud to have been named a Gartner Cool Vendor for 2024, and we have some stuff that we think will be valuable in the SecOps and incident response space, specifically for cloud native environments. So today I'm going to talk through some challenges that SOC teams face, just because of the dynamism of environments going on with multiple cloud environments. Generally, people are multi-cloud, whether they want to or not. We'll talk about gaps in those detective tools. We'll talk about gaps in the tools that are kind of legacy. We'll talk about the need for fast response and detection. We'll talk about cloud detection and response, or CDR, and we'll see how we can fill in gaps with existing tools or solutions or processes or thoughts or people, and kind of go from there. So hopefully by the end you'll have a better understanding of maybe how to enhance your operations. And what I believe, just my, I don't know if I don't know that it qualifies as a hot take, but my belief is that what winning and successful security operations and security organizations uh, in as a whole will be doing to be successful. So let's kind of dive into this. So um, I don't know that you need to see anything from me. My name's Jason. I think I have a face for radio. Um, I am the former chief security officer from Oklahoma Gas and Electric. I was at an electric utility for a long time. I've 20 plus years in security. You didn't come here to hear about me. So let's look for just a moment and see if anybody recognizes this picture on the right of these shoes, right? And I would say, I guess the first thing is kind of a battlefield analogy. Nike created what they refer to as super shoes, right? So if we look clockwise from top left, right, we've got the Air Zoom Alpha Fly, the Air Zoom Victory, the Air Zoom Tempo, and the Air Zoom Viperfly. What's amazing about these shoes is that they were so good that they got banned from the Olympics, that they gave such advantages. There were entire Netflix documentaries written about a couple of these pairs of shoes, about how guys were able to run the world record time in marathons. They were running them at Le Mans, trying to do crazy things. What I would tell you is that this is a great example, in a sort of low intensity way, of thinking about the idea that there is no such thing as a fair fight. With these shoes, as a Nike endorsee, you were better off than you might have been if you were endorsing some other kind of shoe, which is part of the reason why they got banned from Olympic competitions and other things, because they were so good that they gave a distinct advantage to certain individuals that wasn't available to others. Now, let's connect that back to our environments. There's no such thing as a fair fight, right? I already said that, and I think that Sun Tzu didn't say it quite that way, but I think we can all say that that's probably what he wouldn't have disputed that idea. So if we're thinking about in a battle or war, having an unfair advantage is our goal, right? We would have all loved it if we did a poll here in this webinar with whatever 800 and some people that are part of this. I bet you close to 100% of people would say, yes, I would like to be the one with the advantageous position, whether it's shoes or whether it's some people process technology capability, et cetera, et cetera. We'd all like to have that because, again, there's no such thing as a fair fight. And here we go. So whether we want to admit it or not, as a security professional, we're in a war, right? It's our job to make sure that things are working as they should. It's our job to make sure that we are functioning, that we're supporting our company, and that what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing, and we're supporting our business. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. So a couple things that I would tell you as a defender, right? We want to prepare our battle space. We want to, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We want to prepare our battle space. We want to know our assets. We want to have visibility. We want to know where the gaps are, right? Because we generally know where our gaps are, because in our programmatic approaches, we know what we spend money on, what we spend time on, what we spend effort on, what we have or haven't done, right? So we can say, I think it's philosophically equivalent to I can call my sister ugly, but you can't, because right, you know the ugly, rough spots. Maybe a better way that's not quite as bad is we know where the if our grass is green, we know where the brown spots in the grass are. We as part of that, as a defender, want to design a response strategy that helps us to minimize blast radius. We want to look for real-time context over just anecdotal, my gut is telling me something's wrong experience. And we want to try to figure out ways to turn people, process, technology, all of which I think we can think of as a tool in our tool belt, into a force multiplier so that we can maintain the high pace that's going to be necessary for us to really keep up and to continue to win this war. So let's think for just a moment about a paradox that we all face. The cloud paradox. This kind of talks about the SOC is often the first to be notified, or the first maybe to detect. But if we ask a question like, are they always, is our SOC always equipped to respond? And if we think about the makeup of our SOC, it could be that we have people that have limited security or infrastructure or cyber or any kind of knowledge. It could be that they're just new, and so maybe they are skilled, but they don't know what's going on in the environment. They may not know where all the dead bodies are, right? And so think about it this way: is that sometimes we put people in our SOC, and the old school mentality would have been like, well, we'll slowly work that person in, and after 6 months they'll have all the ability. But I would tell you right now, we don't have time for 6 months for a level one person to be really effective. What we got to try to figure out is how can we make them the most effective starting on day one, right? And so we want to empower them. We want to make sure that we're good, right? So are they equipped? And we got to ask those questions. And then if they are equipped, great. How are they going to be set up to respond? And will they understand the implications of an event or an incident? And what we don't want to have is that the SOC is just an escalator. And what I mean by that is something interesting comes in. They get a notification, and their first move is to make a call, open a P1 ticket, and call somebody out. Doesn't matter if it's midnight, 5 p.m., 5 a.m., they're making a call. I don't know if that's all that valuable. In many cases, it probably isn't. And it probably is the death of 1,000 cuts that's killing a lot of organizations, because your people that are seeing this that may have cycles are not equipped to be able to respond. So if we want to empower the SOC, we got to think about how we give the level one types better visibility, better tools, how we can automate the sort of enrichment process so that it's not just the what, but the so what, so that they can understand why this matters. You got this, and here's why it matters. And that we want to give them some guidance so that they're able to do that. And if we can think about just trying to elevate or level up, or however we want to call that in a gamified way, like that's really what we're after, right? So think about pre-baked responses that are per asset class. We can't think about it as for everything, because not all crown jewels are equal, but that's kind of where we got to be. And so we got to think about how we do that, think about how we reduce the escalation and get them able to respond very, very quickly. If we look at things like the Verizon breach report or others that are similar, right there, the mean time to discovery, the mean time to detection, whatever you want to think about that as, are becoming more and more and more important. And so the longer it takes us to be able to respond, the worse off we likely are going to be. And when I say we, I don't mean us personally. Yes, we're inconvenienced. Yes, we kind of wrecked our day, but more likely it's our company that's going to be impacted. And that's what we got to think about. And so when we think about our company being impacted, that kind of gets me to my next thought. So in 1961, before a joint session of Congress, John F. Kennedy made the first announcement of his goal of sending a man to the moon and bringing him home safely by the end of a decade, but by the end of the 1960s. So he said, before the end of January 31st, 1969, we're bringing somebody home. And then, as the story goes, not sure if this is true or not, but as the story goes, in his first visit to NASA in 1962, he stopped off to speak to a janitor. JFK asked the man, "Hey, what do you do for NASA?" And the janitor replied, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." I have no idea if this was a setup or a PR ploy, but the important thing here to remember is that NASA had alignment on their mission across the organization. And for us as defenders, as security types, we got to foster that same sort of missional alignment for our security teams across our organizations, right? And so I mentioned that knowing what's happening within our environment can have an effect on us and could impact us. And when I say us, I don't mean like the security team. I mean the entirety of the organization. And so I would tell you it's not enough to shift left. We have to shift up to think of our business value, our business impact, our business risk. What is occurring and how is that impacting my company? Not just, I got a server that's been popped or someone's account has been compromised. Well, what could happen? Right? So we want to prioritize based on an account or an maybe let's just call it an asset's business impact. We want to think about the impact to operations. How critical is it? If I worked in an electric utility, right? If we'd had something that compromised our ability to provide electricity to our customers, that would have been a really big deal in a lot of reasons. It would have made the news. It would have certainly impacted whoever didn't have power. It would have potentially created some safety issues, lots of stuff. And so that's that operational criticality we got to think about. And then we got to think too about acceptable risk. And that's not a decision that's made by a CISO. It's not a risk, isn't something that is accepted by a CISO or by security operations team members. It's by the business. The business would say, we think this is an acceptable amount of risk to take. And so having our security team be aware of that and know is really important. And so a couple things I think lead to that, and now we'll kind of get to those. If we think about being ready, having a really good foundation as a security organization, right, is I think one of the things that's really important is to have what's called the common operating picture. I had the privilege for years to work on the drafting team for the Department of Energy's cybersecurity maturity model, or C2M2. And one of the great sort of philosophical approaches to that was the common operating picture. And that essentially means is that everybody gets the same data so that everyone's dealing with the same source of truth. And so that's really important. And we want to try to equip our SOC analysts and equip our whole team to be able to see what's happening, prioritize based on the business impacts and the business criticality of whatever is being impacted, and then make decisions based on that. And so if we were to ask ourselves, are we cloud ready? I think there's a bit of questioning that we probably could do. And so let's go look through that. So does your SOC have the tools to answer these 4 questions really quickly? The first one, right? An identity is compromised. What's the blast radius? Do we know? Right? Because that's going to impact, well, how's that affecting the company? How's that affecting our operations? How's that affecting business critical processes? Right? A suspicious IP was detected in the cloud. Has data been leaked? As a CISO, I always hated are we vulnerable to that sort of hallway questions? Getting them from leaders, getting them from my peers, getting them from my board. That's a tough answer, right? And so I'd never like those because they were difficult. We've got to be able to answer those kinds of questions. Another is, and what's the business impact of quarantining a particular asset, right? It's a great thing with a lot of ways that we've architected cloud solutions so that we can minimize the cascading risks to the rest of our cloud environment by having containers and segmentation. But what's going to happen to the business, right? If this is going to take down our public facing website, and our public facing website is the item where it's the place where all of our money is made, what's going to be the impact to that? Got to be able to answer that quickly because the business is going to ask and it's going to be important. And then an alert's triggered from an IP address. What resources were associated with it, and what are the impacts, right? These are the kinds of questions that we got to be able to know really, really, really quickly. And so from a people, process, technology perspective, I think it's important that we have these. And so let's go back and let's kind of overlay the idea of the common operating picture with that. So think of the common operating picture, think of cloud detection and response. And this is the way at Stream we think about this, right? So this is a bit of a bow tie diagram. And so if you look on the left side of the page there, right, so we can see that we're taking data from disparate sources. Got lots of logs. We have exploitability feeds from our Rapid7 or Qualys or Nessus scans. We have firewall logs. We have a WAF. We have all kinds of things there. And then we may have other agents that we've got. We may have a CrowdStrike agent. We may have a eBPF agent doing something else. Those are things that we would take in. And now we have context. So we get the who, what, when, where, why, and how of this really matters. This helps us to be able to quickly understand, okay, so it's not just a security group changed. A security group changed, and now these are the implications. And then being able to overlay that and have some idea of what's going on. And then more than that is being able to take that data and do something with it. I've used lots of tools in my career, and I can think of lots of products that were really, really good. There was always a big sort of if with them, if you could get data out of them. And so I think it's really important that you find solutions, which could end up being people, process, technology, whatever you want to use, that can help you. But you got to be able to take the context of what's going on across multiple layers and be able to feed it back into your existing processes. If you have alerts fire to your SIM or through your SOAR to your SIM and to your messaging app, if you use Slack or Teams or whatever, fine. If you need to open a ticket, great. Whatever it is, you've got to be able to have a repeatable process that can quickly get you where you need to be. And so, really important. And so, what I want to do now is pivot for a moment, and I want to actually show you the Stream platform here because I think it's helpful so that you'll be able to maybe contextualize this a little bit better. So, I'm going to switch my screen for just a moment, and I'm going to show you now the this is the Stream platform, and it's our dashboard. And so what sets us apart, I believe, is that we have can everybody see my screen okay? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry, I'm trying to work across this, so I want to make sure you guys are seeing what I'm showing. So we have what we call a Cloud Twin. It's our proprietary anomaly detection engine, and so it's made up of an LLM that we've built. We spent a couple years working on it to try to make sure that we had high fidelity, that we understood what was occurring, and that we were trying to reduce the uh, the false positive rate. If you think about like the ratio of signal to noise, that's really what we're after. A couple things I want to show you here is that in one platform across all of the big three US public cloud providers, we've got everything in one spot. So we've got AWS, Azure, GCP. We also have Kubernetes containers or clusters. It's really valuable. This is a dashboard, which is kind of a pew pew map and probably less likely for an individual contributor or an analyst type, but more for someone who was in my former position, having had their management lobotomy, being able to make look at things and be able to sort of have an idea, are we secure or not? We can do trends, we can do lots of stuff. These are great. What I would tell you is that the difference here with our platform is that we're real time and that we're able to give you lots of context. And contextual information can come from identity and access management, external exposure, so threat feeds. We can talk about data configuration exposure. We can talk about encryption, logging and monitoring, resources that are old and built. Everybody has that resource that they put out there in the cloud. They stood it up and they forgot about it. And it could be unpatched, it could be unconfigured, it could be misconfigured, it could be unmanaged. It could also have critical data in it. Who knows? And so that's really important. So let's go and look in for just a moment into some detections. Because again, I think it's really important to be able to get to detections. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening there. That's the demo gods are already wreaking havoc on us. So I'm going to sort these detections by severity so we can see if we can find a juicy one. And I'm just going to randomly find, I don't know what this one. Okay, yeah. So do not delete. So that's got to be good, right? So hopefully the demo gods will respond here. Sorry. So a couple things I want you to see is that we've got something with a DynamoDB, and this is a canary. We have some at Stream. We've created these honeypots, which we call canaries, that are designed to mimic your environment and are built using our agent, our LLM, to say, hey, this would look similar, and this would throw off an attacker. And that if somebody is touching this or somebody is doing something to it, it adds fidelity to the potential for this being a legitimate attack. And so our AI summary here has given us a confidence level. We're understanding that, yeah, we've got some clear signs that there's something going on here. We've got two sources. This one is coming from the Stream Cloud Twin, and this one is coming from a third party, looks like maybe CrowdStrike. And so we're able to see that. We can look at associated logs. We can look at details. We even look at MITRE attack framework because I think that's really helpful. Let's investigate this one for a second. So we see an attack path. Lots of solutions provide an attack path, right? But ours, again, is real time. It's not based on a scan that was run and that's 5 hours old or 6 hours old or 1 hour old, because that could be bad news. A couple things that we're seeing here is we think we maybe have some credential access and some exfiltration going on. We have a canary that we've made so that it looks like another DynamoDB table. It's really valuable. If we scroll down, now I'm giving you a timeline. In incident response, in all of my years of doing incident response and the many incidents that we went through, one of the hardest things to figure out was how are we keeping track of all of the things that are going on and what we're documenting in our incident. And so we're giving you a timeline so you can see here's what's happening, and it's in human readable form. We're giving you some information about exfil, and so there's a get item happening here. There is some other suspicious activity. Let's go look at that one real fast. So now we can see that there's stuff happening. That's taking us back to exactly where we were. So I'm going to pivot that and let's go back up and let's pull up. This is our AI Copilot. So again, everybody's trying to use AI. I think AI can be fabulous. I think it's a technology that's come on us faster with more generally available use cases than any sort of new buzzword bingo thing in a long time. I think there's some real value here. What I like about this is in human readable format, we're now explaining everything that the Stream Cloud Twin has put together so that if you have to make a decision on taking an action and you have to play the mother may I game, because cloud environments aren't just managed by one group in almost every organization. Any organization with any size is going to have change management. They're going to have an infrastructure team, maybe DevSecOps. They're going to have a security operations group. They're going to have lots of different people they're going to have to get approval from to be able to make changes. And the first thing, if you go to another group and say, hey, I need you to change this, their first question is going to be, why? So if you can tell them, I've seen this behavior, here's what I've got, and then here is the resource that I'm talking about. It's the billing database. That starts to give them context. They're going to be able to get into that quicker. And so we're telling you attack vectors and tactics. Hey, this is how it looked like they gained access to it. Here's what we're seeing. And then here is some of our mitigation and containment strategy. We're even giving you the commands to run if you need them to revoke credentials. Lots of really valuable information. I get this now as a level 1 SOC analyst who's been here long enough to know how to log into the tool and who to call out. Now I'm seeing information that I might not have known otherwise. My skills are going to be beefed up. This is really valuable. I can use this to, can you please give me a document that shows the full incident timeline? It's hard to type when people are watching. Everybody close your eyes. All right. So while that's thinking, let's just I'm gonna close this for a minute. We'll come back to what I was thinking. This is also an attack path. How many people in your organization know every path from a user to an EC2 instance all the way into a database? And this is a fairly straightforward one where it looks like we're mostly in AWS here, but you could have an Azure, an intra AD user account, that's your IDP. Then you could have something that's pivoting from Azure over into AWS for your front end, and then to your back end that's in GCP. And that's a lot of like a big giant spaghetti monster. So that's pretty crazy. And so so while we're waiting here, while we're doing that, like this, so that is really valuable because now I'm giving you a logical flow. I'm giving you a picture so you can contextualize that better. I think lots of people, when they can visualize something, it really helps them. And then I'm giving you the ability to very quickly, with a pretty low error rate, be able to tell you, here's what's happening, right? Because in incident response, our next steps after we figure out, hey, something's happening, is now we start to escalate this. If you have to get your legal department involved, if you have to get a third party, if you have to get insurance, if you have to get law enforcement, you have to give the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Here's all the timelines. Here's what I know. Here's the fact pattern. We're really helpful. And I love this tool for this, is that I'm giving you, this is giving me as an analyst lots of great data that's helping to be able to understand what's going on with a fact pattern and a timeline, so that I don't have to have a human try to put this together, and that I don't have to struggle and take weeks and weeks and weeks. I can very quickly get this. and make this go. And so I think I'm just about out of time. And so I apologize. I talk really fast. I probably should have started with that. I think that whatever solution that you use, you need to be thinking through a solution that is going to enable you to to be able to understand what's happening in your environment, be able to make sense of it quickly, to be able to document it, and to be able to respond in ways that are going to ensure that your business is functioning and that your business continues to operate without missing a beat. And we often think of ourselves as security folks as, well, we're in a cost center or a loss leader. Instead, we can be a multiplier and a business decision amplifier because we're able to provide data with the common operating picture that can be used for business decisions. And if we have the right people, process, and technology in place, we can help them to make those decisions really well. So I'll stop there, and you guys tell me what's next. Lee, I think it's back to you.
It is, it is. And you still have ample time. So because we have some time, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is there a link between rapid threat detection and timely mitigation?
Yes, absolutely. Go back to what I was talking about with the Verizon report. Think about if you can figure out something's happening. Let's just go and we'll take cyber out of it for a moment and let's think about the Titanic. Had they known, the captain of the Titanic, had he known really early that his ship was for sure going to sink, he would have made different decisions, right? Instead, they got a damage report. They weren't really sure. They hemmed and hawed. They thought they had this unsinkable ship. They didn't get into decisive action. Now, amplify that by orders of magnitude, and that's how fast you've got to be able to be to protect your cloud environments, right? They're internet exposed. Gone are the days where we had things buried behind 75 different layers of obscurity or firewalls or security controls. We may be one login away using an internet facing portal from the keys to the kingdom for all of our data. And so it's important that we have the right controls in place, but if we have something occur, then we need to know about it as quickly as possible and be able to sort it out so that we can sort of mitigate the damage. If you are shot and you are injured badly because of a bullet wound, the faster, the medical science there with the military talks about the sort of golden hour. If on a battlefield, if someone is triaged and gets initial medical treatment within minutes, and then they have a better operation, like a doctor is actually operating on them, the faster they get that done, the better the prognosis for the patient's going to be. Same thing in cyber.
Thank you. One more question. How can blind spots or delays in visibility hinder an incident response?
Well, again, we can go back and think about, you don't really know what's happening. And so if you don't have that full visibility, and this is an interesting thing with cloud, if we think about the capabilities in our client server based on-prem environments that we've had for years and years, we've had the ability to see what's going on a laptop, a user endpoint with here's everything the user touched, here's every application the user's opened, here's every application that the user opened has opened. So we can see this sort of accordioned out like tag path. With a lot of our cloud native solutions, the security tooling just isn't there, and it's not there in real time. There are things that we've had for a decade or more on-prem for legacy client server applications that we can't touch in the cloud. Honestly, I believe Stream can now. That's part of the reason I was excited to come over and join the team. But I think it's really important to be able to see what's happening. And if you don't have telemetry, think about the idea of an agentic approach. Our historical path for all security tools has been put an agent on it, right? Well, how do you put an agent on ephemeral cloud-based resources, right? If we have a Lambda function that's 10 lines of Python, you can't put an agent on that. So you may have a blind spot for when does that Lambda function execute? Has that Lambda function changed? That could definitely have an implication for you from a cost perspective, from a capability perspective, from a accessibility perspective. Somebody could have done something malicious. They could have used a Lambda function to grab a bunch of data, lots of things. Your processes could be interrupted, lots of negative impacts. If you can't see what's happening, then you can't effectively make sense of what's going on, and then you can't make those good, solid business decisions based on risk and business impact.
Now, I know that you kind of glossed over your background, but you have such passion for this product and where you're working now. So I actually am curious, how did you get your start and how did you end up here?
Sure, yeah. So I went to school, got out, was worked in technology, worked as a network engineer for a company in Dallas. Then my wife and I moved to Oklahoma in 2005, thinking we'd stay 5 years, and here we are. Um, and I got into security. I actually was a security information assurance officer, would have been the term for the Defense Information Systems Agency, working for the Department of Defense. I had, like many people my age, there weren't security degrees then, so I was the guy who kind of had an interest. So I did lots of patching and lots of security things, configuring, trying to make boxes bulletproof, doing my own pen test to try to make sure that boxes were bulletproof from the edge, that sort of stuff. Got a job as an information assurance officer, so that was more of a compliance than a doer kind of role, but it taught me programmatic approaches. Then went to a utility, spent almost 14 years there, started as an individual contributor, left as the chief security officer. I was accountable for cyber, physical, IT, OT, and how all of that matters and makes a difference. And it's amazing. We think of ourselves sometimes as just cyber. We don't think about the physical implications. We don't think about how other groups can be impacted. We don't think about how we can use security as that force multiplier. With security can help you in lots of ways. My team was awesome. We were the department of yes. How do we help you get stuff done? We tried to make long-standing, powerful partnerships and relationships that help the business move forward so that all of this information we had, we could use to help the business do what they needed to do. And so I feel really passionate about that's why that's the best way a security team can exist. And the Stream platform in some ways helps to scratch that itch because it provides some things visibility wise, capability wise that didn't exist and haven't historically existed or don't exist in the current marketplace.
That's excellent. I can tell, I can see the passion or hear the passion in your voice. So I just wanted to know where it came from. And like you said, you've probably used a lot of these tools in the past, right? That
Yes.
didn't have these features that are all kind of in one spot for you now. Is that part of what, do you
Yep.
had, I'm assuming you had some kind of input on the design as well.
Yes, and I was actually, funny enough, a customer of Stream. And so I spent a long time, multiple years and multiple $1 million doing this big, huge monitoring transformation. And one of the areas that we had difficulty getting visibility into was in the cloud because of that agentic approach not really working on ephemeral assets and the need to be able to get visibility into some places that we currently couldn't see. Even if you have the greatest highfalutin license from Microsoft or you have some of the other tools from Amazon turned up, you can't always see the same things and have parity between your on-prem security controls and tool set and your cloud securities and controls tool set. So we found Stream, and I think it's an excellent platform that helps to kind of bridge that gap and to give you great stuff. Also, I think it's important. There are a lot of products out in the marketplace that will say, well, all these things that you as a company or organization have put in are terrible, and you need to get rid of all of them, and none of them are as good as ours. Well, I think that's bananas because that doesn't factor in that you spent time, effort, money to find and implement them, that they probably were associated with use cases and business processes that you had, that they worked for you because you have something that is slightly different or not really a cookie cutter based on how a product is. So I think if I was going to join the dark side of being a vendor, it was important for me to find something that I could feel really strongly about that also was going to be sort of pushing the ethos of, well, how do we integrate and give you more benefit from the existing tools that you have? And so if you've got, like most people have some sort of Rapid7 or Tenable or Qualys scanning their cloud environment. So the Stream platform can take that and make you have better context associated with them. That feeds our cloud twin. If you already have Virus Total, if you already have, if you've got Palo firewalls, we can take the logs and the configs of those, and we can feed those into our cloud twin and say, hey, there's a config that's messed up. We can do some auto remediation for you that I don't know if anybody's really ready for yet, but when the market kind of catches up to that, then I think it'll be helpful. How do we do more with less has been a thing for a while, and that the kicker is the more doesn't stop. I bet if we did a poll of everybody on the webinar here to ask, like, does anybody feel like things are slowing down or the pace is slowing down? everybody is going to say no. The pace is moving up. There are more threat actors. There's higher complexity with the way that we're configuring things. We have machine-to-machine communications that are working. People are moving things off on-prem databases or on-prem data centers and moving them into the cloud, which is creating additional exposures. We have less deep understanding of how the operating system is working or how the application is working and how it's talking. We're doing virtual networking, so there are fewer things that are in our control, that are more exposed, that are more complex, that we have now more people wanting to mess with, which could be, the Volt Typhoon, or just maybe the Typhoon series of APTs from our Chinese friends, or Russia, or other nation state level actors, or the sort of Edmund Hillary, I hack because it's there kind of people that are looking to monetize something, or just to be the dog that chases cars. Lots of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I think it's just getting harder and harder. And so the table stakes for security continue to grow, and our need to be able to protect them quickly and enable a sort of single pane of glass that is not hard to get, um, you know, that's a really important thing.
I agree with you. Well, thank you so much, Jason. Hopefully you'll be able to hop over to the chat just to make sure that if there are any other questions that you're able to answer them,
Yeah,
and to check out your awesome graphic that
yeah.
Ashton has created.